splendid, great, brilliant, among others. The debates largely on four thematic areas. Many are those who think the four presidential candidates endeared themselves well to the electorate. Nonetheless, there were some blips, which some civil society groups say didn't take the shine out of the exercise. Executive Director of Imani, Franklin Cudjoe, shared similar sentiments and says the debates deepened Ghana's democracy. He spoke to Joy News earlier today.
You're right. I think Mahama was mostly withdrawn. You couldn't see the Mahama we know. Okay. I was wondering whether it was the elections, the campaign that had taken a toll on him. But even when he needed to rebut, he didn't. I mean, if, for instance, Nana Addo gets back at him and says, well, I'm making choices, you choose to pay judgment debts, and you're running a corrupt enterprise, and naturally, the president should come back on that. But unfortunately, the president didn't. So you don't know whether it was strategy or it was to say, well, I don't care. That didn't come across well at all him.
Let's take a look at Dr. Abu Sakara Foster. He's been fantastic, very articulated, but people do hold the view also that his facts do not reflect current situations that we have at hand. What do you say to this?
He has the passion to make sure that everybody becomes better off, but then the vehicle to drive that passion, unfortunately, is faulty, is rusty. It's rusty to the extent that some of the solutions, again, or some of the ingredients that he proposes, some of the parts to the vehicle can actually be found in 1930s, 1940s. Man, he communicates effectively, but I think his economics have got to be a bit more realistic, you know, even though I understand this is the day and age of global socialism.
On the part of the PNC presidential candidate, Hassan Ayariga, many also hold the view that he was more or less a lecturer at the end of the day. What do you say to that as well?
Well, he was a lecturer, but a very spicy lecturer, because he spiced up the debate. Sometimes it was a lecturer going on and on about things he probably didn't even understand himself. But clearly, there were two things he said that warmed my heart. One was that, look, we have to separate political power from economic power.
That's right.
That was a powerful statement that we never heard from any of the candidates. Secondly, Ayariga tells you that, look, unlike all this talk about the private sector being the engine of growth, he thinks the youth actually is the engine of growth. That's a powerful metaphorical statement that if we're going to decipher, it tells you clearly that this man means business. Unfortunately, in his quest to mean business, some of the solutions he's preferring are all danceable, likable, but unfortunately do not birth properly into the grand scheme of things.
Nana Akufo-Addo, he was well glued and stuck to his prime policy he'd wanted to deliver to Ghanaians when given a nod. But looks as though he was campaigning throughout the debate.
Mahama was a better debater yesterday on facts. But this is Nana Addo, also quite big on some of the facts, especially the NHI. I fully agree with him on the NHI. I mean, it's a very badly organized system as we speak. It's a system that has never seen any proper research. And so if you have an NHI that is preferring a one-time premium, which obviously has been postponed, and hasn't done any research to tell you the economic burden of diseases on the scheme, clearly whatever Nana Addo said yesterday was superb.
Has this added any credence to our democracy, this whole debate?
Of course it has. I mean, you can't begin to think that the first time we're having a sitting president take part in it. I mean, kudos to John Mahama. I mean, it clearly set the pace. Ghana's democracy has been hailed. I was listening to BBC this morning. Lieutenant Bright Simmons was speaking about the democratic credentials of Ghana that have inched up. And there can be no qualms about it at all. We've done creditably well, and we are the envy of other countries.
All right, thank you very much. That was Mr. Franklin Cudjoe, Executive Director of policy think tank Imani, Ghana. And I am Derek Walalom Johnson reporting for Joy.
Staying with the IEA debate yesterday, political parties have scored their candidates high marks after the IEA debate. On the other hand, supporters of the various political parties claimed their candidates won the debate. Now, meanwhile, the four candidates answered questions on national development, education, planning commission, healthcare, energy, private sector, and many other issues. It seemed Hassan Ayariga won the hearts of many with his humor.
I think generally, all in all, each of the candidates tried to touch on the youth in their presentations, but the youth was not a key focus area which was presented by the Institute of Economic Affairs, and I would wish that in the next debate the youth topic is actually taken as a topic on its own, and then each candidate is giving specifics under the youth so that they tackle it in whole.
Our candidate had a lot of depth. He was speaking with statistics, facts, and figures. The others were just blowing hot air. Nanado, as an advocate, a legal advocate, is very good, is very sharp, but I don't think we can risk giving this country to him. And if I was marking his script, definitely he'll fail. Let me say that Hassan Ayariga was very entertaining. But there was a strange thing I observed, that when they were there, it looked like Nanado, appeared. He was almost the same level with all the people. There's something wrong there. Go and check. I can see some platform protruding there. There must be fair and equal opportunities for all.
I scored my candidate objectively at 110%. I think he did fantastically well. I'm so proud of him. I think he managed to both in a short time lay out what is wrong with the current administration and lay out his vision for transforming Ghana.
The messages that we're getting certainly indicates that the most inspiring candidate out there tonight was Dr. Abu Sakara, the person who was on top of the issues, who delivered a clear vision for Ghana is Dr. Abu Sakara, and we believe that he certainly won this debate tonight. Nana Akufo-Addo and the president are scrapping for second place. Perhaps the president peeps Nana Akufo-Addo into third place. Hassan Ayariga certainly is out of his league, but certainly Dr. Abu Sakara was the most eloquent.
I'll prefer the people of this country to score my candidate against the opponent. What I do know is that, particularly for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he had difficulty understanding many of the questions that were asked him. Clearly, the man did not have an understanding and an appreciation of the issues, set his own questions, but even the answers that he provided to his own questions were wrong.
If you look at the applause and ovation that Akufo-Addo had, it demonstrates to you that he was on top of the issues and that he answered it clearly to the admiration of the people of this country. John Mahama was completely lost in the maze. He was dazed, he did not have a clue where he was, and you could see that all he had to take, the fidgeting, drinking of water, doing this and doing that. The man was completely lost. He is in government. For 4 years he's in government. He ought to have told us what he has done, but he could not tell us a single thing except to admit that he has been a failure. And having been a failure, Ghanaians are not going to return him back to that seat.
So everybody is at a loss as where the presidential candidate of the MPP was getting his figures wrong. I think that his advisors did him a lot of disservice. I felt very, very ashamed on his behalf when the president had to come in and school him on the various aspects of the ingredients of the agric sector, and even made him know about the contribution of the logging and the forestry sector and all that. The confusion that bedeviled their candidates during the early stages of the debate is what is following them all through.
Now, flag bearers of the two leading political parties in Ghana, President John Mahama of the NDC and Nana Akufo-Addo of the NPP, clashed over the issues of health at the IEA's presidential debate series on Tuesday evening in Tamale. President Mahama and Nanado faced off with the actual figures on the cost of training medical students in the country compared to training them in Cuba. While the NPP's presidential candidate insisted the cost of training medical students in Cuba is higher than training in Ghana, President Mahama rebutted that the NPP presidential candidate has got his facts and figures wrong.
The president referred to this Cuban initiative, which he led. The amounts of monies means that 105,000 cedis are being spent on the training of one doctor in the Cuban arrangement. We're told by the Ghana Medical Association that they can train, a doctor is trained in Ghana for 30,000 cedis. So the initiative, far from accelerating the delivery of medical care for our people, in fact, is contracting it. We would have used that money much better in empowering the medical institutions in our country to deliver and produce more doctors.
I'm reluctant to use this rebuttal, but I need to set the record straight. The cost of training one child under the Cuban program is $5,000, far lower than the cost of training in our medical school here. And so we had to take that opportunity. I wanted to set that record straight. And so it's not the figure you have. You've kept conjuring pie in the sky figures that do not reflect the reality.
These are figures that are published on the internet and everywhere by your own
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right, so joining us to really digest the issue of how much it costs to train medical students in Ghana compared to training medical students in Cuba is Dr. Frank Srebo. He is with the Ghana Medical Association. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good evening.
Right, good evening. Now, Doc, really, tell us about the cost of training medical students in the country and then training them in Cuba.
Well, I will just give you some few figures so that at least you can do a calculation yourself. For us as Ghana Medical Association, what we know is that for students who are Ghanaians, who are fee-paying medical students in a year, pay 6,000 Ghana cedis. So for the whole 6 years of their training, the total cost is 36,000 Ghana cedis. Whereas if a foreigner comes into the country to train as a medical officer or a medical student, he pays $7,000 every year. So for us, the issue is that if for a fee-paying student in Ghana is 6,000 and the staff cost is 36,000 a year, then the figures that we picked up some time back, I mean somewhere in April, May, April, that the students that were taken to Cuba, and the government was spending 660,000 Ghana cedis on each of them was quite huge. That was the reason why GMA came out to say that if those figures were true, then indeed it is not a good deal for Ghana. But from the IE debate yesterday, we are hearing that the president is saying that indeed it's $5,000 that is being used to train the medical students in Cuba. I feel that for us, we have made our case, and it's up to the media to really dig out and find out exactly how much was spent and training the doctors who were taken to Cuba. The issue is not about how much does it take to train a doctor in Cuba. The issue is how much did Ghana spend in training those doctors in Cuba. If it's 5,000, then I think that Ghana had a good deal because our foreigners who come here pay $7,000 every year. So then it means that Ghana had a good deal. If it's not 5,000, and indeed it's a 50,650 Ghana cedi, then it means that Ghana has really lost some money that could have been invested in the training of medical students in Ghana. And so really, I think for us, the issues are clear, and that as far as we are concerned, the media should rather go deep into this thing and find exactly how much the country is spending on our medical students that we took to Cuba, the 250 students that were taken to Cuba.
Doc, shouldn't also the focus be making medical education here in the country affordable so that we don't even get to the point where we want to subsidize medical education for Ghanaian students? I mean, in some countries like Ukraine, you realize that medical education is super cheap, even for foreign students. Tuition is cheap for foreign students. So shouldn't the focus of government then be, let's make medical education cheaper for Ghanaian students?
I guess you are very right. I mean, that would even mean that we could train more. I mean, the focus should be to make it cheaper. So we should be looking at ways of helping to ensure that the medical training is cheaper. But then, of course, when you go to Ukraine and other places, their training is different from ours. And of course, with the universities, I'm sure they should be able to find a way to ensure that we train our students at a lower or cheaper rate that should not be subsidized by government, or even if government has to subsidize at all, will be at a lower fee. But of course, but that is beyond the purview of the Ghana Medical Association. We can only advocate that. I don't know.
But in advocating, you could recommend ways of making medical education cheaper. You may have experienced medical education outside the country one time in your life as a student. And I'm thinking that you could recommend. So if you could do so, what will be your recommendations in making medical education cheaper for Ghanaian students?
For us, I think that what we may have to do is to decentralize our medical training, and that would mean that satellite campuses will have to be set up, and so people would, the training will not be centralized. I mean, in terms of the clinical training, for example, if you go to KNUST, all the students are lumped up in Kompanoche. If you go to UGMS in Accra, all the students are lumped up in Korle Bu. Whereas there are a lot of satellite hospitals that we can make sure that at least specialists, senior specialists are all over the place who are capable of training medical students. And so we will be able to cut down costs. Because for that, if we are able to do that, that will cut down the cost dramatically, and that, I mean, will help the country a lot. So indeed, decentralization, one of the ways that we will be able to cut down costs drastically.
So we could say at the moment, medical education in the country is for those who can afford and not probably those who can really do it.
Well, there are two categories of students in a medical school now. There are Ghanaians who pay fees, there are Ghanaians who don't pay fees. So what we
But very little of those who can pay fees.
Yeah, that is exactly the case. But as it is now, yes, we still have Ghanaian students who are paying fees. Who ideally, they shouldn't be paying fees. And if you look at the recent results that was turned out by the senior high school students, indeed, over 500 students qualified to practice into the medical schools in Kumasi alone. And yes, the school couldn't take on the 500. Just about half of them were actually interviewed and taken. So you could imagine that, yes, if you're able to bring down the cost in terms of decentralization, we'll be able to train more. And so for us, we feel that the politicians will be talking about the ways to ensure that they will be able to decrease the cost of training of medical students, and to also be able to ensure that at least more people get trained, so that we can improve the doctor-patient ratio in the country.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your time this evening. We've been speaking to Dr. Frank Cerebro. He's with the Ghana Medical Association. Now, still on the IA debate, which took place yesterday. Political humor is one of the key ingredients for peace. Throughout his campaign and presidency, George Walker Bush was often ridiculed for his poor grammar and incoherent speech. Perhaps Hassan Ayariga feels his current position at the top of the Ghanaian honor belt is a good omen. Here are some pot shots aimed at Ayariga, which we captured on Facebook.
In 3 minutes, I will be muting my TV. Ayariga is about to speak. To be Ayariga'd means to be overwhelmed with questions asked that leads to incoherent speech or writing delivery. Example, the interview panel Ayariga'd the applicants to the extent of writing in Sanskrit instead of English. This is what I can't understand. On a very serious note, Ayariga could show up and was allowed to debate, but Pakwesi Indom wasn't? A crying shame. Ayariga will encourage the salaries of doctors. What does that actually mean? 2 types of capital. 1, working capital. 2, the capital itself, Ayariga. Enkoye for some candidates at all. Not easy to sit at the table of men at all. Someone wasn't informed. We have been producing avoidable graduates instead of absorbable graduates. Good point by PNDC candidate Ayariga. So, wait, who is Hassan Ayariga? How did he get nominated? And where did he learn to speak English? Does Ayariga know where he is and what he is standing for? The dude is some way. Sounds like an SRC aspirant. The PNC delegates have really done Ghana a huge disservice. We did not deserve this, and I wonder if a plea to the IEA to exclude Hassan Ayariga will ever be considered. Pakwesi Indom is on standby and could offer Ghana a much, much better perspective. 3 issues on health, access, family planning, seriously, LOL. Plus the part about less human production, OMG, this guy made my day. Can't seem to get this bit out of my mind, LOL. Sakara, winner. Out-of-the-box thinker and dazzled from start to end. Mahama, second, fact-based and on top of issues. Had a slow start but woke up from his slumber when Nana threw the first punch on NDPC. Replied with a strong counterpunch. Nana, third. Started strongly but never recovered from Mahama's punch on NDPC. Lost the plot by trying to attack the NDC. Should have brought out more of the good points MPP has. Ayariga, fourth. God loves a trier. At least he gets to go home to a beautiful wife. Nana is winning the English battle. JM is winning the facts battle. Sakara is winning the practicality battle. Ayariga is their son.
I remind you, those are not comments of Joy News. They are comments from a cross-section of Ghanaian social media users. Moving on to some other stories. The IEA debate is the most topical issue now. Guess what? Hassan Ayariga is the most discussed candidate on social media platforms like you saw earlier. And we bring you some sound bites that distinguished him from the 3 candidates and won him the spot.
The oil industry in which we are boasting today is in the hands of the foreigners. Why are you worried about the small traders when you have sold the heart of the nation to the foreigners? So let's, first of all, retrieve what we have sold out, and the little ones that are around will definitely go back and make sure that Ghana belongs to Ghanaians first before any other person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ask the next question.
Thank you very much.
We all believe that the economic growth with the discovery of oil, the economy will grow. But when you discover oil and you give it out to a foreigner, the economy will not grow. Because the foreigner will take the proceeds of the oil revenue to his country, and you will be paying deficits. And your sea and your water bodies will be all contaminated with oil distance. Let's have our students to be more talented so that we can export the brain drains and recover natural foreign exchange and more of our doctors. We can equally generate enough loans here to give to Cote d'Ivoire, to Burkina Faso. But when we don't believe in ourselves, we'll definitely go out to China looking for 3 billion loans, or we'll go to, what did you want the last time? 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 Obama said we can't. But Ayariga says, yes, we are ready. We believe that empowering youth is starting with empowering Mr. Hassan Ayariga by my father, my brothers, and my brothers going home. Going home. Going home to rest. We are retiring them. We will give them a beautiful retire package. The one that they will not be worried. The PNC government will make sure that our lives and our economy, we only want to be seen wearing tie and white-collar jobs. We don't believe that. Over the years, we have been producing avoidable graduates instead of absorbable graduates.
Now, Ayariga may have been hilarious at some point, but let's not take it from him. He had a lot of confidence. This is your authoritative news channel, Joy News. I'll be right back.
Your election headquarters on TV, radio, and online.